Hi everybody, my name's Ginger Montez and I'm from Cherry Hills Toastmasters. You're probably watching this because you're getting ready for a presentation maybe at work, maybe with Toastmasters or some other venue. For me, I do presentations outside of Toastmasters when I teach aerobics. And you want to figure out what is the best way to prepare for that speech or presentation. I'm going to share with you the way I like to prepare for my speeches, which may or may not work for you. So let's go over that now. The first thing that I like to do is sit down and write a bunch of ideas of what I specifically want to talk about. So before I get started, I'll create a sheet and I'll write down all my different ideas, different things I want to cover during that presentation. Then I'll go online or go to a book, if anyone still reads those nowadays, and get all the bits and pieces I want out of there and put it onto that one big profile. Next, what I'll do is I'll create that outline that you actually lay out exactly what order you want to talk about things in. I try to make sure I incorporate stories at this point of personal experiences or something humorous, or make sure I have my 3 building blocks that make a strong presentation or memorable speech by putting those pairs, and I'll do that all on my outline. After that, I finally sit down and write my speech. That's when it flows really smoothly. I can keep referencing back to the outline and going back and writing my speech in Word. So now that you've written your speech, the next component is to memorize it. And that's where it gets tricky, and that's where people do things a little differently for themselves. This is what I do, and it's a little bit unique, but in today's society, when we don't have a lot of time to be memorizing what we're going to talk about before we do, it's a perfect way to get really comfortable with those points you want to cover, those funny phrases that you thought up of when you're writing your speech. What I do is, since I have a Mac, I will go on GarageBand and literally record myself giving the speech. Then I'll save it into iTunes and create a podcast that I put on my iPod. If you have an iPhone, even better. What I do with it is I'll listen to it in the car on the way to work. I'll do this a week before I give my presentation. And I always find something that I did weird, or I said weird, or wrote weird in the presentation that I can fix later. And more ideas get generated as I'm listening to the speech. And I'll remember in what order I'm covering things. This is what I do. Now you can also have somebody go over that speech with you, line by line. Although this doesn't always work out for the best. Oh, hey, Evan.
Yeah, what's up?
Can you help me with my speech real quick? I want to make sure it's really good. In March of 2009, I ran my first ever half marathon.
Do you have a comma there?
When I moved to Japan, I wanted to stay in shape.
That sentence doesn't even seem like it needs to be there. That's fine. That doesn't really seem like pertinent information to this speech.
Now that I was in Japan...
I think you need a transitional phase better than in America.
So that
you lose somebody through that transition. There's going to be some transitional phase.
That would keep me in good health and physique.
How does that have anything to do with your language barrier? I'm missing, it's just like you're throwing stuff in, the information in there just to have information. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, so work on that and then come read it to me again.
Okay. He was so mean to me about my speech. You can always just go back yourself and go over it again and get rid of the LOL cat's grammar. I can't do this speech immediately. Amazing. Now, on the day of my presentation, I set aside the whole day, because I'm a procrastinator, and practice the speech all day. Not literally all day, but I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes here and there, and what I'll do is I'll memorize one paragraph at a time. Now, this may not be common for people who give presentations, My dad is a Toastmaster as well, and he prefers to just get the general feeling of what he wants to present and give it, and he feels that it's more natural and coming from the heart that way. But I like to memorize it. I mean, I don't come up with jokes off the fly. So being able to plan it all out in advance and memorize it perfectly, I'm going to be giving an amazing speech. When you're practicing your speech at home that day of, or maybe a few days before, you can do it to yourself. You can do it to a wall. I like to do it to the cat back there. It's a very attentive listener. Fellow Toastmasters, today I'd like to tell you about playing on Facebook. It's amazing. You should go try it. Thank you for listening to me. And practice, practice, practice until you feel comfortable with it. If there's parts you want to improvise and you won't have any fillers, then go for it, whatever you're comfortable with. So to summarize what I have been going over, write your outline, write your draft, write your speech, come back to your speech later, record it, listen to it in the car, and practice and memorize each phrase at a time. And you'll be ready to give the most amazing non-LOL cats speech ever. Good luck! If you're ever in the New Mexico, Albuquerque area, please feel free to come by to Cherry Hills Toastmasters and give your wonderful speech to us. See you there. Wait, please listen. Don't get bored. Please watch, focus, focus, focus. Hey, you're supposed to listen to me, not interrupt. How can I practice with this kind of audience?